My name is Lindsay, and I am the founder of the Pixel Corps. The Pixel Corps is a guild for content creators. We have members in 40 countries. The headquarters of the Pixel Corps is here in San Francisco, California. 500 years ago, when you wanted to build a castle, you would send out a couple messengers and a whole bunch of people would come together, and they knew how to work together. They knew what part of the puzzle they were filling, and they were able to put together something very, very complex. And the Pixel Corps is kind of designed around something like that, but for a digital age. The real seed of the Pixel Corps was me driving around in circles on a tractor in my parents' backyard, dreaming of the idea that I'd be sitting on a computer working in the South Pacific in an island, and being able to get work and send work back and forth without really having to be part of any kind of larger system. That was the seed 20 years ago. I started as an intern for a radio station, and about 7 or 8 years later I was working on Star Wars Episode 1 at Lucasfilm. And all the way through, I didn't really take much school. It was mostly me just doing one internship after another to kind of work my way and learn something new and continue to expand, how I did what I did. And I just constantly was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a way that I can absorb this faster, a way that I can work with other people to figure it out, a way that we can do test projects and teach each other and speed up this process. And so it was a constant obsession of mine to figure out a faster way to train myself and to train others. Once I got to ILM and I was working on films, it's still, a lot of times I was looking at the idea that we had a lot of expensive artists doing sometimes very menial things. We were all kind of the same, and there wasn't this graduated scale of people that could do the things that were still interesting and challenging to them. And so that was one of the challenges, was figuring out a way to how do we create that? How do we recreate that hierarchy that allows the projects to be done efficiently from a cost perspective, but also if you're an advanced person, you're not doing simple tasks. You let the simple tasks be done by somebody else so you can continue to do the interesting things. And so a lot of it was me trying to figure that out. I then went to start teaching, thinking that one of the real problems was school, and the teachers don't know what they're talking about, and I'm going to go fix it all. And immediately got into all the challenges that you end up with in school, that you're slowed down by the slowest person in the class, and that slowest person might be the fastest person today and is the slowest person tomorrow, and it just depends on what their questions are. And suddenly, the way that it was, just the way it was structured, was very, very difficult to work inside of. So from there, I really started thinking about, well, how do we just, without looking at the way it's been done before, only looking at craftsmen's guilds and old-fashioned ways of kind of doing it through experience. How do we reapply that to this kind of more modern technical arena? The Pixel Corps is really designed to make it easier for big visual effects firms to find artists quickly. So when they need 30 compositors or 20 3D artists, the idea is to create a more standard type of artists that can fit into their production pipelines more easily. It's also designed for smaller companies to be able to do the same thing, to be able to find the 3 people that they need, to be able to outsource to people, whether they're outsourcing to someone elsewhere in California or Iowa or Austria or Africa. The idea is that it makes it easier for them to get that done as well. It also makes it easier for the artists to work together, to build their own production group. And we have many members who have done that, where they just build their own production groups kind of ad hoc because they're all working from a standard point of view, and that standardization makes it much easier to get these projects done. When a producer is out looking to put together a visual effects group, and they're not going to a large firm, they're going to cobble together this firm to do one thing and this firm to do another, one of the problems that they run into over and over and over again is, this company is going to build their software in this. They're going to build their pieces in Maya, and this one's going to build it in something else, and this one's going to build it in something else, and there's no way to get the models between them. And even if they did, this naming convention doesn't get along with that naming convention, and this doesn't get along with that. And so you spend half your time just trying to get the 2D assets or the 3D assets or the film assets from one company to the other, and just to be able to open them. The idea is by creating a standardized workflow among a lot of artists who know each other, who kind of have a similar background because of the guild, it makes that process much easier. whether it's individuals or whether it's small companies or even big companies working with small companies, being able to have that as a piece is very important. In a lot of ways, one of the things that's very important in visual effects companies is oftentimes the corporate culture. Now, the thing is that 500 years ago, that corporate culture was the guild, not the company. So the idea is we're abstracting that culture, the way of doing things, the way of knowing each other, the way of communicating, out of the corporations themselves and back into the people who are actually doing it. And this makes it easier for the people to work together no matter where they're working. So a lot of times where 3D artists are today, and not just 3D artists, but visual effects artists and so on and so forth, is constantly having to retrain, retool, constantly trying, I'm going to learn Maya for this thing, I'm going to learn another thing for, another piece of software for that thing, I know Shake today, but I need to know Nuke tomorrow, and I have to, and so there's this constant, complete re-gearing that's going on, and that's always going to happen to some degree, but, it makes it harder for them to be very quickly hired, to be very quickly part of a team, because they have to keep on changing these whole skill sets, oftentimes suddenly, just to get the next job. I think the only way I could describe our organization is chaotic. So there's some hierarchy. I mean, there's some people that are kind of accountable for different things, but there's not a lot of hierarchy. There is, and there's just a lot of things to do, and a lot of people wearing a lot of hats. It's not a very pigeonholed kind of company. I think that we like to train people and cross-train people and then cross-train them some more. We find that artists do better work when they understand more parts of the puzzle. So a 3D artist does better work when they know compositing. An editor does better work when they do shooting themselves. An editor does better, or a compositor does better compositing when they see when they're doing the final edit. When you're on set and you are working on a green screen, you're much more sensitive to how it's lit when you have to do the composite and the edit later. And almost all of our guys are kind of in that puzzle. I think that the future are generalists with a specialty. Someone who's really good at one thing but has kind of a general knowledge of the entire production process. I think in many ways I'm the ultimate generalist. I started in radio, I've done voiceovers, and I've done audio editing, then I've done legal animations, and then I've also worked in TV and film. I've done 3D animation, compositing. I've shot with a camera, both handheld. I do a lot of green screen work. I have put all those pieces together, and all of those things I think are an important part of who I am as an artist. And I don't know if I'm a specialist at any of them. I'm very excited about the way the industry's going. In a lot of ways, the Pixel Corps, in many ways, represents the little guy, the individual artist or the small companies. And chaos and a lot of change tends to favor the little guy and tends to favor the smaller companies that can take advantage of what are seemingly small opportunities and kind of grow out of them. When I was starting up in print production, we had big Cytex operators are getting paid lots of money, and we had little whippersnappers getting paid minimum wage working for some company in this crazy program called Photoshop. Well, I was the whippersnapper. I wasn't the one working in the Cytex. I got my opportunity. I got into the industry because of that chaos. And so in a lot of ways, I see that chaos that we now see in the film industry, that we now see in TV production, as something that is very similar to what I saw in print. And I think there's a huge opportunity for many of our artists to take advantage of that. One of the big focuses for the Pixel Corps is that through the standardization, through the structure that we create within the guild, they have flexibility to work on their own terms. They don't have to work for a big company. They don't have to move from Omaha, Nebraska to LA. They can work anywhere because they can fit into that system from anywhere. And that's something that is something that doesn't occur very often today, and it's something that we're hoping to bring more into existence tomorrow. As an artist, a lot of us want to have a flexible schedule. We want to have a flexible lifestyle. But to have continuity, from one job to another, to be able to keep on working, to be able to keep on paying the bills, we need some structure. The Pixel Corps is a little bit of the compromise between those two. It is really creating that structure so that we can continue to have our flexibility, but also continue to have the continuity we need to make it a career.